Hi everyone, welcome to another episode. I thought I would jump on and show you what I've been knitting on for the end of the year. So my idea was to have everything that was on my needles from about October off my needles for the new year. That hasn't exactly gone to plan because I ended up casting on a few new things and casting off a couple of bits and pieces that you probably haven't seen yet. And I decided to frog quite a few whips, and I have a couple of whips that I'm unsure whether I am going to continue with. So all that to be discussed in this episode. So I have 4 finished objects for you today. So let's begin with the first finished object. Okay, so the first finished object is the Rumi Balaclava by Rui Yamamuro. So here we go. It is huge, but hence the Rumi. This was knit using, also disclaimer that for the majority of the items that you see today, I have been shopping my stash. So all of the yarns I've had for at least a year. I have some acquisitions to share with you today, but most of the yarns and for the finished object and my whips I've had for a while now. So so this is my first finished object. I will put it on so you can see how it looks. So I have been getting a lot of wear with this. I've had a cold, I've had flu, so it has been super nice to just literally put this on my head and just be cozy and toasty and warm. I knit this from one strand of mohair and 2 strands of the woolly knit cone 4-ply. 2 strands turns into a DK. So let's say DK plus 1 strand of mohair of the Fibre Fox. So I had a 50-gram hank of kid mohair. So it's 72% kid mohair and 28% silk. From a yarn festival years ago, and it was in this lovely olive green color that I've had in my stash, and the woolly knit cone, which I have made countless things in the past. And I just think that I've said before, the cones are just so economical for me because I get a lot of garments and accessories out of them. I buy one color that I like and I just get loads of things. And the great thing about that is that everything can be coordinated because everything is the same shade. So so that's the label. So that's a small independent yarn dyer called the Fibre Fox. She has lovely colours, and probably the next time I see her yarns I'll probably replenish my stock. So that was some mohair that I used. I did run out because it was only a 50-gram hank, and what I did was I had a load of, again, some olive green. I think it was either by Southampton Valley Yarns or it was like a khaki olive green colour by Drops, and I just used that to finish off. So with the construction, it's a simple pattern. It's a free pattern which you can download on Ravelry. You start literally with one square at the head here, and then you knit up that square, knitting backwards and forwards in stockinette, and then you pick up some stitches on each side and you knit the sides by increasing, and then you knit the neck and you do your edging. So it is a really simple pattern, but really cozy piece of kit. So that will be getting lots of wear this winter. So that's my first finished object. So that's the Rumi Balaclava by Rui Yamamuro, and that's a free pattern on Ravelry. Okay, so my next finished object is a pair of simple mittens. No pattern, literally just knit up in some leftover Let Lopi in the colorway Straw. I ended up just duplicating some stitches, which is a skill that I definitely need to work on. It's actually meant to be an R to signify that this is for the right hand, and then naturally this is for the left hand. Again, I have been out of circulation for about 2 weeks in December, I would say, just from illness. So I've had flu, I've had the cold, so I've been laid up. So I have had the opportunity to work on these small projects and get them sorted, and I've also had the time to think about some languishing whips and whether I want to continue with them or not. So yeah, so no pattern, as I said. I literally cast on, I think it was like 45 stitches on I think it's 3.5, maybe 3.5 or 3.25 millimeter needles, and knit some rib. And then when I got to about here, I did some increases for the thumb, and yeah, put the thumb on hold, knit the rest of the hand, and then did the same for the other hand. Really not rocket science. So that's a pair of neutral mittens, because I have quite a few pairs of mittens. I have a pair that's in the same green, and I have a pair that I knitted up from just a load of scraps. So I wear these mittens a lot. I always have to remember to take them off when driving, because you don't have very much control with the steering wheel. But other than that, I pretty much wear them all the time when it's, well, for 3 seasons. So it's always good to have a light neutral pair. So those are my 2 finished objects. Now, I have 2 other finished objects, but they were gifts. So they are no longer with me at the moment, but I remembered to take some footage of them before I sent them off to the recipients, so we'll take it away past me. Hi everyone, so we are pre-Christmas, and I just want to jump on to record that my mother-in-law's ranunculus is now finito. it wasn't a straightforward knit because there was quite a bit of toing and froing with regards to how long my mother-in-law wanted to have her sweater. I am wearing the one that I knitted her originally. I think I knitted to pattern, ranges between 15 and 20 centimeters plus 8 centimeters of ribbing post at the when you separate for the sleeves. So this is quite long, so it's actually 49 centimeters long. So to me, I think she is quite slight in build, but she wanted her sweater oversized, so that's what she is getting. But to me, this just seems huge. So I think I will update you when I do my end of the month knitting update. So I will let you know if it fits her. So everything else is knit to pattern. I knit size 1, but just for the body I really added some length. So let's hope it's okay. Guys, update on the ranunculus. I gave it to my mother-in-law, and as predicted, it absolutely swamped her. So I was in two minds about what to do about this, because at that point I was kind of done with the sweater already. But then I thought about it and I thought, okay, I've come all this way. I've re-knit a whole entire second ranunculus, and we're just at the final hurdle. It's a bit too big. What I should have done is, because the ranunculus is intended to be a cropped sweater, because my mother-in-law wanted the length, I should have done some decreases either side of the waist and hips so that I wouldn't have as much fabric at the front of the sweater. That's what I should have done, but I didn't, because I didn't think of that. So the second idea, which was to just take scissors to it and steek the sweater either side and just take out the excess fabric, which is what I did. So thankfully my husband took over the Christmas Day cooking because we were hosting, and I got out my fabric scissors and, well, not even my yarn scissors, and I think I've only got one side of the excess, so I actually took out 2 of these. So yeah, it was rather big, and in the end she was pleased with the result, so I think it was the right thing to do. As I would be giving my mother-in-law the ranunculus as part of her Christmas gift package, In the interest of balance, I decided to knit my father-in-law something to add to his Christmas gifts. I also knew I had a few long train journeys to the metropolis this month, so I thought a small and simple ribbed or stockinette project for a gift would be the perfect companion. So I shopped my stash and decided to use some of this leftover heavy merino that I used as the contrast colour in my halibut sweater to make a simple beanie hat. I didn't follow a pattern. On 3.5mm needles, I cast on about 90 stitches. I knit a long 2x2 portion, ribbed, folded it down by picking up stitches from the cast on edge, knit two together and then stocking up to the crown, and then Kitchener graft closed. Simple. Okay, so now we come to whips, and I have 4 whips to share with you today. A couple of them you have seen and a couple of them you have not. So let's start with one that you have seen. So in October for Halloween, I started my Shining socks. I literally have not picked this up very much at all this month because it's not hard going, because there are probably about 14 rounds of repeats, okay, of the pattern. But the point is, you do have to focus on the pattern. It's not that intuitive. It changes at every round. It changes on every round, but it does require concentration, which I haven't really had this month. So, so I will continue, but I do want the finished item. Although I am wondering how, whether, because I don't have the stretch, and I've got the floats on the inside of the, yeah, that's okay. No, it does have the stretch. I just have to keep, yeah, I think that will be fine for my leg and foot. It's just that it's really difficult to, because I've got them on shorties, I've just got them on 9-inch circulars. So I have to be careful because I do not want, as you can see, I've messed it up a few times. And for me, if I'm knitting a sweater and I mess up the colour work, I tend to want to change it and fix it, which is fine. But with a sock, I'm in two minds. So I either want to rip back and fix it, but then I get like, if I do, I'm like, oh, no one will see it. It's just a sock. But then once I've made that mistake, I kind of lose interest in the pattern. And I think that's kind of what's happened with this sock. I'm like, oh, I've made, uh, I think that's the worst of it. I don't think, oh yeah, there are some here. I've messed up the pattern quite a lot. Um, so I lose interest, and it's a bad way to be, because you either need to fix, you can't have it both ways. I either need to fix the issues, or be okay with making mistakes in color work. But I'm kind of at an impasse with it because, and not only that, I did say I'm going to do 3 pattern repeats before I split for the, or put the ankle stitches on hold. And then I think because it's an afterthought heel, and that is a construction I haven't done yet with socks. So I wanted to try out this method. But because the foot would be more of the same, this, intense focus on the pattern type knitting, I don't know really if I can be bothered to continue. Yeah, I just don't. I something like the halibut. I found the pattern quite moorish and quite enjoyable to knit because it was maybe like 50 rounds of color work, and then you have stockinette, and the pattern, you could, it was quite nice to see the pattern develop, and it was quite, moorish in that you wanted to finish the yoke to end, and then the body was not that much of stockinette. So for me it was an enjoyable knit. But just when the whole thing is intense color work. Actually, now that we now that we're getting into this, let's get into the second whip, which is literally just hanging out on my cupboard. I haven't done I haven't done work on this in months, and I really am all in two minds about continuing with this pattern. It's just that it's really intense. I'm learning about myself that I'm not enjoying. I don't enjoy patterns where it's you literally just have to follow. The you have to knit and sit and stare at a pattern to follow it. I'm not a fan. I always want the finished piece, but it's hard work. Hard work. And I knew that this all over colour work would be hard work, but I'm thinking either I frog this, but I haven't actually made any mistakes so far. It's just that continuing it, I just haven't had the motivation to do so. So it's a bit too early for me to separate for the sleeves, but maybe if I can push myself to separate for the sleeves, perhaps I could just do the rest of the sweater in black yarn to just have like black and white at the yoke, and then from here a black sweater. What do you reckon? Let me know in the comments whether you think that would look good. Do you think that's a good idea? Or vice versa. I've got the enough yarn to do either the rest of the sweater in cream, or the rest, not cream, but the color of the white. It's not quite white, it's a bit off white, um, with neps. So it's the cream nep, woolly knit cone, or I'm thinking a black sweater, because I would get a lot more use out of that. So do you think that would look good for the rest of the sweater to be black? Would I even need to? Because part of me is just thinking, sorry, I've got to remember two things. I've still got a cold and my microphone. So I apologies if I am bashing my microphone with the sweater. So let me know if you think that a part, to continue this just in black yarn and just forget about the rest of the color work. So let me know in the comments, please. So that is actually two whips. I will continue with this, but I just need to get into the. And then, not only that, it's not only like I have to. It's not like the sweater where you get into the frame of mind to either continue the color work, or I continue the sweater in black yarn and that's it. With the socks, I have to get the motivation not only to finish the first sock, because usually I'm fine with the first sock, get the motivation to complete the second sock. I need to actually get the motivation to finish the first sock. So that doesn't bode well. Really, really doesn't. So we shall see. I have been enjoying this whip so much, and it's probably the primary thing that I have been knitting on for the past, I would say, week or so. Um, Also, it's not quite wintry, so I'm getting a bit ahead of myself with regards to this whip. Here we go. Oh, actually, to show it to you, I'll put it on a hanger so you can kind of see. Oh, does that work? Kind of. Okay, so this is my third whip. It is the Pavo blouse. Okay, it's kind of seasonal with the name because pavo in Spanish is turkey. So it's kind of seasonal, but this is called the pavo blouse, and it's by Atelier Azur. And it's a lovely short sleeved lace yoke, and also it has lace at the bottom of the sleeve and at the bottom of the sweater as well. So it has this gorgeous lace pattern at the yoke, which actually wasn't so bad. I've said before, I've talked about my difficulties in the past that I had with lace. Lace and I have managed to sort out our differences, and I think I'm okay with lace now. I just, again, like color work, I just need to focus. It's not like knitting on a stockinette project. I do need to, it does for me take a little bit more focus. And yeah, I think that, I just have to make sure that my stitches remain on my needles. So yeah, I unfortunately am playing yarn chicken with this project. I am using some chaos yarn, some alpaca silk. Well, let me read the label. Okay, so organic brushed alpaca by Chaos Yarns in the color Charismatic. I had about 6 balls of this yarn that, yeah, I initially bought it when I went to Sweden. I bought it from Hans Yarns in Varberg, and I used it for a skirt that I knit up a while back. And then I had some leftovers because then I contacted Mua, the owner of the store, to be sent some more so that I'll be sure to finish that project. And I actually bought excess, way more than I needed. So I had about 6 or 7 balls left. So I decided to knit this blouse, and I think it will be absolutely lovely. So this is held double. So it will have the same kind of feel as what I'm wearing. I'm wearing my floodlight tee or smock that I made a few months ago, and I'm enjoying that. So it will have that sort of nice, easy breezy, yet quite warm and snuggly feel. So, like I said, I'm playing yarn chicken with it because I have 2 balls left. Like I said, I'm holding it double. Now, I still have about, let's say, six. I still have about 20 centimeters to knit of the body. And then what I think I will do is weigh the remaining yarn, weigh what I have left, and then those split whatever I have left in two, and then I have yarn enough for the sleeve. So I don't know the length of which I will end up with for the sleeves, but it will be whatever is left. So I will get to use up whatever I have. So I do have enough yarn to finish the length that I need for the blouse, and then the sleeves will just end up whatever is left. So I think that's probably the safest way that I could do that. So it's not really yarn chicken, it's just that I'm cutting it fine with the amount of yarn that I have. And that is sort of not the danger, but that is the difficulty of having a load of yarn in your stash and trying to um, sort of make whatever you have in your stash work for any project that you decide to do. Whereas if you only buy the yarn that you need for a particular project that you have in mind, you tend to be okay because you've bought the whatever you need for that project. So I have a load of cones, 500-gram cones, on its way to me. I don't know when they will arrive. I was hoping that they would arrive for this episode so that I could show you the colours that I opted for, but it hasn't arrived yet. But I find, and that's another reason why I love cones, because you have 500 grams to play with and you don't have to faff around, or do I have enough, etc., until you get right to the last moment. And segueing into my final whip. So my final whip is oh, I did have some. I think I confused myself actually. Okay, I think I confused myself. Let's get this right in my head, right? For the Rumi balaclava, I began with finishing off the very last bits of my Southampton Valley Yarns mohair in like, I think it was like a moss green or khaki green. So I finished that off, and then I opened up the hank from what were they called? From the Fiber Fox. So this is the Fiber Fox yarn, and you could see the color of this. So this is hand dyed, gorgeous mohair silk, and the depth of color in this is absolutely so pretty. So I have this. So I used it to finish off my my balaclava, and I have maybe about 25 grams left. So I cast on again with the same composition, with 2 strands of the woolly knit cone. But then to make gauge for the next item, I am holding the Fiber Fox mohair held double, together with the woolly knit cone in the khaki nep green, which I have actually now run out of. So that is also as part of the order. So I am knitting the Coarse Han Slipover by Strecker Cafe. And so far I'm only on the ribbing. It is knit bottom up. So you have a long ribbed section at the bottom of the slipover, and then it goes into a basket weave sweater. It looks like Wallace's slipover from Wallace and Gromit, and yeah, it's a gorgeous basket weave sweater which is knit using chunky yarn and quite large gauge needles. I didn't really want the really chunky look, so I did a bit of swatching and gauge tweaking, and I think I'm using 3.5 instead of like 5mm needles. And this obviously will not do for the whole of the slipover, so I preempted that for once, and I bought a load of drops. Oh, actually, doesn't quite go. Doesn't quite go. So we might have an issue. It's a bit haphazard today, I think. But you know, sometimes things you just have to experiment. So yeah, right. So that means that the Valley yarns, the Southampton yarns, were a lot closer to they were a lot closer to this sort of olive khaki green than the drops. But not sure what to do with that information now. I'm not sure. Okay, I am just sat here editing the video, and I realized that literally I have just taken this yarn outside of the packaging. I still have all the invoice, so, and I bought it off Wool Warehouse, and it's literally just drops. So I am gonna return this and look for a more suitable fluff, ideally mohair, khaki slash so what is this color? This one is drops, and it is I think it's like a moss green, color 32. Let's see if it says it on the invoice. Moss green. So I need more of a khaki olive green color. So I'll try not to dox myself. So so yeah, I think I'm gonna send this back and look for something a little bit more suitable. This month I also decided to frog a project. a languishing whip as well. So I decided to get rid of the Ryoanji skirt. Nothing was really compelling me to knit on this project. It's nothing to do with the pattern, gorgeous pattern, and I still probably will knit it in the future. Nothing wrong with the yarns that I was using because it's gorgeous silk yarn by Knitting for Olive, and I would like to I would like to find an appropriate pattern for it, or maybe I could even use it to knit the skirt, which is what I intended it for. But for some reason, I think I might have used two smaller needles for the waistband, because while I'm knitting on it, I'm thinking, this looks way too big. And I have some needles in my set because I only use fixed circulars. I only own fixed circulars. And the majority of my needles have the size written on them, or sorry, not written, printed on them. I also have a needle gauge so that I can tell what size, and that's how I store them. I store them in a little folder which are well labeled with what size they are. However, with my very slim needles, very tiny gauge needles, I have them chucked in a pouch altogether because I kind of ran out of wallets. So I think I cast on using needles that were a little too small for the gauge required. I don't think I swatched using the the waistband gauge. I think I swatched using the body of the skirt gauge. So something, as I'm knitting on it, something was telling me, okay, this is way too big. So I took what I had, which was probably half of the waistband because it's a folded over waistband, took that off the needles, and it was absolutely huge. I can probably get two of me inside of what I had knitted. So I'm glad that I had frogged that, because if I had continued, imagine if I had knit the whole skirt and the waistband was way bigger than I needed, that would have hurt a lot. So I actually need to start again, essentially. So I frogged it. So I no longer have that on the needles, which is great. So I think in the future, maybe closer to spring, I will start it up again using the correct size needles, hopefully. Okay, as I said before, I think I've bought three cones from Woolly Knit Cone, 500 gram fingering weight yarn. So I would have liked to have been able to show you those, but they are not with me as of yet. So I got a small amount of acquisitions to share. I have a friend who is into fiber arts. She is a sewist, but she recently has gotten into knitting and crochet. I think she enjoys crochet a lot more than knitting. So I thought I'd get her some yarns, and I had a look on the Jamieson&Smith website, and I wanted to get her some nice wools for her to crochet or knit. And I found that they were doing these yarn bundles by decade. I think it was to celebrate, 70 years of Jamieson&Smith. And I thought I would get my friend the 60s bundle and it's really pretty, and I thought it's really nice, and it's almost didn't really make me think of the 60s, but it made me think more of autumn. So it's quite a nice autumnal collection. And so I thought she could either knit or crochet something, or do some color work, or I think she enjoys knitting, no, not knitting, crocheting granny squares. So I think they'd make really cool granny squares, the combinations of colors, what I got for her. And I also like to repurpose ribbons. And so I have a box of ribbons for gifts so that I can recycle them and use them for gift wrapping. I also like to not use wrapping paper that cannot be easily recycled and cannot easily be used multi-purposefully, for example, for birthdays and Christmas. So this year we exclusively used brown paper and just tarted them up with ribbons and the like. So this is the 90s combination of yarns. This is what I bought for myself. So I thought I would get her the 60s bundle and get myself the 90s bundle. So I have 6. So this is 2-ply jumper weight yarns. It's 100% real Shetland wool, 25 grams. So I have 6 of these with this color combination. I think this color combination is a lot more 90s than the 60s combination is 60s. So what color do you think would go well if I, for example, if I used these as the contrast color, maybe for a slip over, something like a multicolored sweater vest. I think that would look pretty cool. Although a lot of the sweater vests that I have been looking at that are like 6 colors or more, you do actually need more than 25 grams of one color. So I'm not sure what I can actually use this for. I would like to use all the colors in one project, but I would probably need a main color. So I don't know what kind of color would go with it. So let me know in the comments if you have an idea of a main color. So I already have, so maybe like maybe khaki green. Let's check. Does khaki green go with it? If this was the main color, or brown? I think like a chocolate brown might go with all of these colors. I don't know. Or a black. Nah, not black. Not sure, but obviously either I could use these for colourwork mitts or colourwork hats, but I'm not into those, to be honest with you. A garment, like a slip over or something like that, would be quite cool. So I am going to keep this visible, put it on my desk or something, so that I can feel a flash of inspiration. I will leave you with some footage of how we have spent the last few days. I hope you have a fabulous new year and a prosperous start to 2025. And I will be sure to see you in the next video. Love you. Bye.